Okay, so with our testing framework in place, it's time to start beefing it up. Let's write a small test set that will ensure that our config is exporting the correct values depending on our environment. We'll also make sure the defaults are correctly in place. And so to do that, we'll create a new testing file, touch config.test.js. Great. And we'll add some tests to it. Now, again, we already have our code written, so this isn't perfect, but that's fine. We're still going to write it. I mean, it's better to have tests than not have them. But the reason why we don't write them, we usually write the tests first, is that we can't be sure our tests are simply passing because we wrote them incorrectly or because it's our code that's making them pass. So writing the tests first, watching them fail, and then writing the code to make it pass is a better approach. But again, we'll work with what we have. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to describe test config, which is the group of tests we'll be running here. And then I will test. You have to stop doing that to me. Wow. Jest, I need you to relax here. I think it's just a VS Code thing. Haha, gotcha. Test config derived from process.env. And let's do a few things here. Let's just set up some process.env. What are the secret key? That's one of them we're exporting. Let's just say key. And let's do a few of them. What are some of the other things we have here? We have port, which should be, let's go with 4000. And let's say database URL, which is db URL, and let's say node env equals nv, and let's set the, yeah, I mean, that's good. That works for me. Then we'll say const config equals require config, and we'll expect config.secretKey to equal key. And we'll do all the expectations here. So we'll expect the port, the database URL, and actually we don't actually want to expect the database URL itself. Let's just, you know what, let's keep the node env where it is, and let's just say config.getDatabaseURI. And we'll actually run that function and make sure it equals db.url. Then let's go ahead and delete all of those. So we'll delete process.env.secretKey, and we'll delete the port, and we'll delete the database URL. And then we should expect the database URI to be equal to our default one, which is, I think, PostgreSQL //Postgres at localhost 5432 is the port, and then we named our DB rate my setup advanced. Keep wanting to hit tab so that it completes it for me, but it can't. So then let's create one more test here, and let's say, since we just did one for database URI, let's say database URI changes for test environment, just so we know it's running against a test DB. And we'll do the same thing. We'll import our config here, and then we'll say expect this database URI to be equal to this right here, and rate my setup advanced, and then we will change process.env.nodenv to test, and then we should expect this to have test at the end of it. Just like that. Now, the reason why we know that this will change is because this config.getDatabaseURI is a dynamic function. So it's going to create the database URI anytime we call it with whatever variables are stored in process.env. And so if we run this, they should all pass unless I made a typo somewhere. So we can just say npm test. And hopefully that works like we want it to. Okay, looks like I messed up somewhere. That's totally fine. Let's see what's up. So, okay. So config.port, ooh, well, I messed up there, that's for sure. That's what you get when you copy paste. Cool, that's fine. And then here, okay. Yep, that was the port. And then this one, looks like this did not do what we wanted to. It was still dburl. Didn't I delete that right there? Huh, interesting enough. Okay, that should work. But I don't think it did because it failed here, so it never got to the section below. So let's try and run it again and make sure this passes now. Ah, okay, cool. It does. So they're all passing, and that looks good. So we now have tests to make sure that our config is deriving itself from process.env, which is what we want, and that the database URI changes for our test environment. Now again, it's probably not a good idea to have tests that are passing right away, but having tests set up in general is a good thing. So the fact that we have them now is a much better thing than not having them at all. So now we can just move on to a mission critical part of our app, which is our JWT utils. So let's add a new test file to the utils directory called tokens.test.js. So we'll touch utils, tokens.test.js. And let's write some tests here that fail and then use them to refactor our application so that we're using usernames instead of emails for our token payload. And this is actually going to require quite a bit of refactoring, so it's a good place to start adding tests. An even smarter move would be to add tests for auth routes, models, and then refactor, so maybe we'll do that. But for now, let's just add some simple tests to make sure our token utils are working like we want them to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import, actually, let's take a look at the tokens. So we want both of these. So I'm just going to copy paste them. So I have to type this out again. And then I'm going to actually import the module that we're using. So we'll say const tokens equals require /tokens. Great. And then I'm going to describe the can sign and verify tokens. Cool. And then I'm going to test that signing and verifying token with secret key works. And so in this one, I'm going to create some claims, which is going to be the username, and we'll just say this is the test user. Nice username you got there, test user. We'll say const token equal tokens dot generate token, and we'll generate it from the claims, and that is just running this function here to generate a new token from the data, which is just the claims we declared here. Then I'm going to say const decoded equal tokens dot validate token, and we're going to validate it, and we're going to expect that decoded token to equal all the claims, which is just the username, and then the issued at, which is, we're going to say expect.any number. Now, expect.any is just a matcher from Jest that matches anything that was created with the given constructor here. So we'll use something like this if we don't know the actual value, but we know that it's going to be a number or a string or whatever. And so we'll do the same thing with the expiration date, like so. And then let's write another test down here to ensure that signing a token with a secret key, signing token with secret key, and verifying token with incorrect key throws error. Cool. So here we'll do the same thing. We'll create these claims, we'll create the token, and then we'll do something different. We'll say try catch any errors, and in here we will verify this token, but we'll verify it with the wrong key. No bueno. And we will expect that error to be an instance of the JWT.JSON web token error. And we'll expect that to be truthy. And again, this is another matcher that just ensures that whatever is in this expect matcher part here is a truthy value. So that error is an instance of the JWT.JSON web token error. And so then I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run this test. And again, this is a much more useful set of tests. we really want to know that these functions are behaving like we expect them to, and these 2 new tests will definitely help in that regard. So run them. Time to run them. npm test. Okay, so we have more tests now. I just noticed that. I just realized this. 3 tests, 3 passed, 6 passed. Cool, that looks nice. But we kind of have to like scroll through to find our tests. And the ones we want to look at are getting lost in this whole suite. So this is actually a good time to show that if you want to run a single file, you can do something like this. npm test -- tokens.test.js. So npm test, 2 dashes, and the file name. This standalone -- is like Unix magic for marking the end of options, meaning that like for npm, everything that's passed after this is passed directly to npm test. So it'll just it'll test only tokens.test.js. Now, if you're on a Windows machine, this command won't actually work for you. Instead, you could either run the file directly from the command line. Well, let me just show you that this works. Okay, great, it does. You could run it like this: jest utils or jest-i utils tokens.test.js, like that, and that'll totally work as well. Or you could even go into the package.json file and create your own script here. So you could say like test utils, and we could test all the tests inside the utils directory, like that. And that'll work as well. And then you could run it with something like npm run test utils. Bam. And that works just the same. Now, there's probably better ways to do that on Windows, but I'm not actually sure I know what that is, so I'm going to skip them for now. Either way, when we run that individual file, and we're ready to write some failing tests. So let's head back into that tokens.test file. Actually, you know what? Let's stop here for a second, because this video is already getting long. And in the next one, let's add some failing tests and then talk about how we're going to do our refactor.